Okay, good morning, everyone. Before we start, I want to thank everyone for being here. There will be 5 speakers this morning, and after the 5 speakers, we will be taking any questions that you may have. So we'll get started. Good morning, everyone. I'm Chris Aylward, National President of the Public Service Alliance of Canada. The past 2 years have been hard for workers everywhere. The cost of living has hit a 40-year high, and people are struggling. Every day, we see that our dollar doesn't go as far as it did, especially in grocery store aisles and at gas pumps. People are falling into debt and making sacrifices just to make ends meet. And the experience of workers in the federal public service is no different. PSAC members are feeling squeezed along with everyone else. Our members have been without a contract since 2021, and today, an overwhelming majority of our members have told us they can't wait any longer, and they are prepared to strike to secure a fair deal that won't see them fall behind. Together with our members from the Canada Revenue Agency, they represent 155,000 federal public sector workers who got vital financial aid programs up and running for Canadians when they needed it the most. They're also cleaners and cooks on military bases, clerks and maintenance workers, tradespeople, Coast Guard workers, teachers, firefighters, and the people Canadians rely on to help process your employment insurance and immigration applications. These are not high-paid senior executives. The majority of our members are women making between $40,000 and $65,000 a year, not the kind of salaries that can withstand being rolled back. Our members' wages have been stuck in neutral while the cost of living continues to soar. We're asking for decent wages that prevent workers from falling further behind. It's what all workers deserve, and that's the message that 155,000 PSAC members have delivered to the government today. The government's offer would see workers shoulder the rising cost of living, while wealthy corporations who are truly driving inflation make record profits. And this is something that will impact all Canadians. When the federal government, Canada's largest employer by far, suppresses wages for its workers, what they're really doing is pushing down wages for all workers across all sectors, be it public, private, unionized, or non-unionized workers everywhere. Our members don't take the decision to strike lightly. They know that a strike will be difficult for them and for the Canadians who depend on the services they provide. But they're exercising their bargaining power because they just can't wait any longer. The bills can't wait, their families can't wait, and their futures can't wait. And so they're sending a message to the government that they won't be taken for granted. They won't fall further behind, and that they're ready to fight for better. It's not too late for the government to do the right thing and avoid one of the largest strikes in Canadian history. Our bargaining teams are here this week at the bargaining table in this very hotel where we're standing. All they need is folks across the bargaining table with the mandate to reach a fair deal. And there's no reason they can't get it. We're just steps away from the Prime Minister's office. In fact, you can probably see it from those windows right here to my left. So to the Prime Minister Trudeau, I say this: it's time to deliver the working conditions that your employees deserve and to strengthen the federal public service for all Canadians. I'll now turn it over to PSAC's National Executive Vice President, Sharon DeSousa, to highlight some additional important issues at the bargaining table.
Thank you, Chris. Hi, everyone. As you just heard, the government's current offer would mean a real wage cut for more than 155,000 workers. This government knows that the rising cost of living and inflation is impacting all of us. And yet, there are still many other important issues at the table. Federal public service workers are continuing to fight and demand for more inclusive workplaces. We've seen from the Black class action and Indigenous class action lawsuits that there is institutional and systemic racism and discrimination in the federal public service. Building a more inclusive federal public service should be a top priority for this government. That's why we're calling for more training on anti-racism, discrimination, and harassment for all federal workers and managers. Since the pandemic, we've also seen remote work become part of everyday life for many workers. Our members have proven that they can be as effective working remotely as when they are in the office. Now, it's time to look to the future by enshrining remote work and the right to disconnect in our collective agreements. Contracting out is also eroding the services everyone depends on, while costing Canadians more and making our members' jobs less secure. That's why we're pushing to end contracting out and fighting for good, secure public service jobs. Federal public service workers deserve better. PSAC will not back down until this government gets back to the table with a new mandate that puts workers first. What workers are asking for isn't unreasonable. It's what all workers deserve and should be able to expect. Wages that keep up with the cost of living and workplaces that are safer and more inclusive. I'll now turn it over to Yvon Barrière, our Regional Executive Vice President for Quebec, who will speak more to these issues.
Merci beaucoup, Sharon. Bonjour tout le monde. Merci beaucoup d'être aussi en grand nombre présent. Nos membres sont sans contrat de travail depuis 2021. Aujourd'hui, ils nous disent haut et fort qu'ils ne peuvent plus attendre. Ils sont prêts à faire la grève pour obtenir une entente juste et équitable qui ne laisserait personne de côté. Ici, là, on parle de 155 000 fonctionnaires fédéraux qui ont fourni des services indispensables à la population et ont mis en œuvre de nouveaux programmes d'aide financière à un temps record durant la pandémie. Ils sont concierges, cuisiniers sur les bases militaires, dans les pénitenciers, commis, adjoints administratifs, aux préposés à l'entretien, hommes de métier, travailleurs à la garde côtière, enseignants, pompiers. Ce sont aussi des personnes qui traitent les demandes d'assurance-emploi, d'immigration et j'en passe. Bref, on est loin des fonctionnaires là, grassement payés. La grande majorité sont des femmes qui gagnent là, entre 40 et 65 000 par année. C'est loin d'être suffisant pour compenser de l'inflation et de permettre là, de joindre les deux bouts. Du côté, là, les salaires là, stagnent depuis 2 ans. Le coût de la vie, de son côté, grimpe en flèche. C'est ce qu'on demande, là, des salaires décents pour que tout le monde s'en sorte. Surtout, là, c'est que tout le monde devrait avoir, et c'est le message clair que les 155 000 fonctionnaires envoient aujourd'hui au gouvernement. Nos membres n'ont pas voté la grève là, sur un coup de tête. Là. Ils savent qu'une grève là, sera difficile pour eux, autant aussi que pour les gens qui comptent sur leur service. Mais ils exercent un pouvoir là, de négociation parce qu'ils ne peuvent plus attendre, parce que les factures et la famille n'attendent pas. Voici ce qu'ils disent au gouvernement. On ne veut pas être tenu pour acquis. On ne veut pas s'appauvrir davantage et aussi on est prêt à se battre pour que ça change. La balle est maintenant dans le camp de M. Trudeau. Son gouvernement doit saisir la chance, la dernière chance de négocier une entente juste et équitable pour les fonctionnaires fédéraux, où il se mesurera à une grève nationale historique dont personne ne veut, personne, mais qui fera du tort là, à des millions de personnes partout au pays. J'aimerais maintenant là, vous présenter là, 2 membres de nos équipes de négociation là, qui ont joué un rôle clé dans la négociation et qui peuvent témoigner de la façon dont nos membres ont été touchés par la situation au cours des 2 dernières années. Dans un premier temps, on va recevoir le Charito Humphreys, qui fait partie de l'équipe de négociation du groupe le PA. Elle représente 70 000 membres. Elle travaille là, pour le programme d'assurance emploi, développement social depuis 5 ans. Et ensuite, on va recevoir Serge Desbiens, qui est pompier à la base militaire en Ontario. Donc, Charito.
Thank you, and good morning. My name is Charito Humphreys, and I'm a business expertise advisor who teaches, monitors, and assists employment insurance officers. I love the work that I do. I take pride in the work that I do. I'm able to assist Canadians in accessing crucial benefits. During the pandemic, we assisted in the delivery of the Canada Emergency Response Benefit. We worked tirelessly, day in and day out, to make sure that Canadians had funds to pay for their basic necessities. We delivered a program that was changing every week, and we had to adapt. We delivered a benefit that had never been delivered before, and we took pride in the work that we're doing, and we did. We're feeling the impacts of wages that aren't keeping up with inflation. We're living paycheck to paycheck. We have some of the lowest paid workers within the federal public service, and those workers are currently relying on food banks in order to feed their families. That's how far we're falling behind in our wages. Workers are quitting because they can't afford to keep jobs within the federal public service. As one of Canada's largest employers, the federal government needs to do better. We love our jobs, and we want to stay working in the federal government. All we're asking for is to be treated fairly and to get fair wages that keep up with rising costs, like all workers are asking for. Workers don't want to go on strike. We want to continue assisting Canadians. But this government has refused to negotiate fairly, and workers everywhere have hit their limit. Our families can't wait. Workers deserve better.
Maintenant, on va recevoir donc Serge Desbiens, on va le représenter à nouveau. Donc, Serge Desbiens fait partie de l'équipe du groupe SV qui négocie là, au nom de 10 000 membres. Il est pompier à la base des Forces canadiennes de Borden, en Ontario. Serge?
Merci, Yvon. Je me présente, Serge Desbiens. Je fais partie des pompiers à la base canadienne de Borden. J'ai 42 ans dans la fonction publique et je suis pompier depuis 37 ans. Comme pompier, nous sommes l'assurance vie des Forces armées canadiennes. J'ai 38 ans d'implication dans le syndicat. C'est ma 4e année au sein de l'équipe de négociation. J'essaie d'aider la prochaine génération à se servir du syndicat. Je suis fier de faire partie de l'équipe de négociation SV. Nous représentons les cols bleus de tout le pays, les gens des métiers, les pompiers, les dockers, l'équipage de navires. Les salaires sont en baisse depuis au moins 2000 et nous essayons de les rattraper. Comme pompiers, nous avons besoin d'un ajustement au marché qui nous permettra de rester à jour. Nous accusons un retard de plus de 20 % par rapport aux pompiers municipaux et provinciaux. Je n'aime pas la façon que nous sommes traités à la table de négo. Il n'y a pas de respect. J'aime mon travail. La lutte contre les incendies est une fonction honorable. J'aime ce que je fais. Mais les 2 dernières années ont frappé tout le monde durement, et cela a eu un impact sur les travailleurs. Ils doivent faire des choix difficiles pour joindre les 2 bouts. Nos jeunes travailleurs partent pour aller travailler ailleurs, et cela a un impact réel sur les services publics. Le gouvernement doit recruter et retenir les travailleurs dont nous avons besoin pour fournir les services publics essentiels et payer des salaires justes. C'est ce que tous les travailleurs méritent. Merci.
Thank you again, and we'll take any questions that you may have. And the speakers will be available as well after the press conference for interviews.
Thanks so much for having us this morning. I heard it was a little complicated, more than that expected. Chris Nardi from the National Post. So I was just hearing that negotiations at the table, there's no respect. So am I to understand then that the current ongoing wave of bargaining is not going anywhere near as well as we hoped?
Well, we've been at the bargaining table with our Treasury Board members since June of 2021. We decided to take strike votes back in January because we've seen nothing but disrespect from the government at the bargaining table. So that's why we decided to take the strike votes. And with, the members today speaking very clearly and very loudly that they are prepared to take job action. Hopefully the mood changes at the bargaining table.
And so what's your plan going forward? You have this mandate. You can launch a strike in 72 hours if needed. Are you planning on doing that imminently? What are you waiting? What's kind of waiting for now?
Well, as I said, we are at the bargaining table this week. We are scheduled to be at the bargaining table until Friday. So we'll see what happens this week.
If there's a press conference on Friday, we know.
That might be a good indicator. But we'd also call a press conference to announce we got to reach a tentative agreement as well. So
That's fair. And a quick last one. Have you gotten to the point where you're talking about wages, and has TBS changed their offer since the last PIC report?
No, I mean, they indicated, and they indicated this publicly, that they thought the PIC report was a path forward to a possible tentative agreement. We incline to agree with them. However, it has to be better than what's in the PIC report. Is it a path forward? Yes, it is. Is it going to settle this round of bargaining? No, it will not.
Hey, Kate McKenna from CBC. I'm just wondering if you could provide Canadians an overview of what would be affected, what services will be affected if you do choose to strike.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, there's quite a few actually services that would be affected in the event of a strike. Certainly, you already heard about the processing of immigration applications, employment insurance applications. The Canadians will see, certainly services like, the grain won't be exported, that sort of thing. So it'll be everything from, coming across a picket line in front of a federal building to possibly delays at airports, borders, and that sort of thing. So it will be impactful on Canadians if this government decides to put us on strike.
What message would you have for Canadians who are also having to tighten their belts because of the cost of living? What would you say to them as for why your members should be treated differently?
What we're saying to all workers across this country is every worker, whether they're unionized, non-unionized, public sector, private sector, every worker in this country deserves a fair and decent increase. When you look at the current economic context that we're in, and, as I said, the rising cost of living, the rate of inflation, while we're sitting back watching corporations make record profits. Workers are frustrated in this country. They're fed up to see this. You're being gouged in the grocery store aisles, you're being gouged at the gas pumps, and yet nobody's wages are increasing. I mean, workers are just being kept, pushed down, pushed down, pushed down, and we just fall further and further and further behind. That's why we decided in January to take the strike votes, and that's why our members today loudly and clearly said that they're prepared to take job action. Thank you.
Bonjour, Louis-Charles Poulain, TVA Gatineau, Ottawa. Vous avez mentionné que la grève pourrait avoir des impacts sur les Canadiens, également sur les travailleurs. J'aimerais savoir, est-ce qu'on peut savoir le résultat du vote? Est-ce qu'on parle d'un mandat fort? Est-ce que vos membres sont nombreux à avoir voté pour ce mandat?
Merci pour ta question. J'avais hâte de lui répondre. Mais écoutez, on a été agréablement surpris. On a un mandat extrêmement fort. Nos membres sont derrière nous. En fait, c'est nos membres qui nous dictent effectivement qu'on se doit d'aller en grève. Hein. Je vous rappellerai là, que la première année, le Conseil du Trésor nous offre 1,5 pour la première année de contrat. Pendant ce temps-là, on avait une augmentation de l'inflation là, à 8,3. Donc, nos gens ne veulent plus attendre. Ils sont prêts. Et encore hier, j'étais à Québec avec 150 membres. Et je vous le dis, c'était à l'unisson. Ils sont prêts à aller en grève. Et ça, possiblement, très rapidement, selon ce qui va se passer à la table de négociation cette semaine.
Est-ce possible d'avoir le pourcentage de gens qui ont voté pour?
Je ne l'ai pas, moi, en ce moment, là, mais c'est extrêmement fort. On était agréablement surpris.
Peut-être m'expliquer en français les impacts que ça pourrait avoir pour les Canadiens?
Bien, malheureusement, écoutez, là, je demeure quand même là, optimiste, mais d'un optimisme prudent en lien avec ce qui va se passer cette semaine à la table des négociations. On espère vraiment là, que Mme Mona-Fortier va arriver avec un réel mandat. Mais les conséquences, effectivement, là, on doit se rappeler l'été passé avec la problématique et les soucis de passeport. Donc, passeport, immigration, l'importation de nouveau des grains, tout ce qui concerne les ports et aéroports. Donc, il peut y avoir des ralentissements qui peuvent s'effectuer. Bien sûr, là, tout ce qu'il peut avoir là, en termes d'assurance-emploi, immigration. Je pense aussi à l'Agence du revenu. Donc, il risque d'avoir des retards là, au niveau là, des études, de dossiers, des rapports d'impôts. Donc, oui, effectivement, il y a malheureusement des conséquences aux citoyens. Mais bien honnêtement, là, la FPC, on est prête à négocier et à éviter cette grève-là, mais toujours conditionnelle à ce que Mme Mona-Fortier puisse enfin négocier avec respect avec nous autres.
Merci.
Hi. Can you clarify, this is Laura, I'm with CBC Ottawa. Can you clarify exactly when the strike could start? What would be the earliest date?
Today, we, as of, let me clarify that. As of today, our 120,000 Treasury Board members are in a legal strike position. Our 35,000 members at the Canada Revenue Agency will be in a legal strike position this Friday, April 14th.
And how realistically should Canadians be preparing for a strike like today, or is this a pressure tactic to aid with the bargaining talks this week?
I mean, certainly we are leveraging our bargaining power. There's no doubt about that. And as I said, we're at the table this week, and we'll see what happens. I mean, my crystal ball is not that clear, to be honest with you. So what's going to happen over the next 2 or 3 days will depend on the government, to be quite honest with you. Our goal is not to go on strike. Our goal is to get to a tentative agreement. So after today, it'll be up to the government. Thank you.
Je poserai, Patrick Foucault, Radio-Canada, je poserai la même question à M. Barrière. Les Canadiens vont vouloir s'attendre à savoir quand on pourrait possiblement entrer en grève. Ça ressemble à quoi les prochains jours pour vous? Là, quand est-ce qu'on pourrait potentiellement avoir une grève?
Bon, sans vouloir répéter ce qui a été dit, bien, effectivement, dès aujourd'hui, en fait, selon la loi, selon la juridiction et les lois de la Commission des relations de travail, nous pourrions débuter la grève dès aujourd'hui ou dès demain. Donc, est-ce qu'on va le faire? Non. Est-ce qu'on veut donner la chance au Conseil du Trésor de revenir à la table avec une bonne négociation? Bien, absolument. On demeure quand même aussi optimiste à ce que le Conseil du Trésor nous revienne là, avec des offres là, justes et équitables là, pour nos membres. Mais on va étudier effectivement la possibilité là, d'une grève là, selon la négociation qui va avoir lieu cette semaine. Puis on espère que Mme Mona-Fortier va ramener ce qu'on appelle la table des enjeux communs pour pouvoir faire des avancées. Parce que la semaine passée, les avancées ont été extrêmement là, à pas de tortue, bien malheureusement.
Très bien. Peut-être une question sur les employés essentiels, parce que juste pour l'Alliance, c'est 120 000 fonctionnaires. Il y en a qui vont être considérés essentiels, qui vont devoir travailler. Pouvez-vous nous donner une idée du pourcentage de combien, tout ça?
On parle d'environ 42 000 membres et employés de la fonction publique là, qui vont être services essentiels au premier niveau. Donc, c'est certain que là-dessus, on a quand même été très conciliant. On a bien participé à cette négociation-là, parce qu'on n'a pas l'intention non plus là, de couper tous les services. Hein? On ne veut pas non plus prendre les citoyens et les citoyennes là, en otage. Donc, à ce compte, on a été, je vous l'ai dit, relativement là, permissif pour octroyer là, un maximum de services essentiels pour que les gens, là, je pense à la pension de vieillesse au niveau là, des jeunes familles qui puissent quand même recevoir là, des montants d'argent de façon mensuelle.
Puis le gouvernement parlait il y a quelques semaines de 46 000, le 4 000, est-ce qu'on...
Ben, c'est environ ça. Donc,
c'est à peu près ça.
Oui, absolument.
OK, c'est parfait. Très bien, merci.
Policy options. A big issue for many public servants, maybe even more than wages, is remote work. What are you hoping? Like, what does that mean to enshrine remote work in collective agreements? What do you hope to get there? And would you be willing to make any wage trade-offs to get it?
Thank you, Catherine. I'll answer the second part of your question first. No, we will not compromise on our wage demands to get remote work. There's no doubt about that. What we're asking for around remote work is that we want language in the collective agreement so that basically everyone knows what the rules of the game are. Right now, it's very chaotic in the federal public service with this hybrid workplace, and nobody really knows what's supposed to happen. So that's why we want to negotiate language into our collective agreement so that everyone knows what those rules are, so that it's applied fairly and consistently right across the country. That's what we're asking for.
And on the strike front, how long can you afford to strike?
As long as it takes.
Like money-wise?
Money-wise, as long as it takes. As I said, nobody takes going on strike very lightly, and we've got to make sure that we are in fact ready for a strike. And because the best way to avoid a strike is to be ready for one, and we are ready for the strike.
So your central strike fund, do components and locals, do they contribute to strike funds separately? Or?
All of our members contribute to the strike fund.
So it's all in one spot?
Yes.
Okay. And hybrid work. How are you managing a strike with hybrid work?
Basically, if there is a strike, then in order for you to be considered on strike, you have to show up physically to a picket line. If you say, well, I work remotely, I work from home, that doesn't cut it. You have to show up at a picket line, and of course we'll have picket lines right across the country, and we'll make sure, even for our members in remote areas, that there is a place for them to physically picket. There will be no virtual picket lines.
And how do you monitor that?
Basically, whoever shows up at the picket line is on strike and will receive strike pay. We'll be signing people in as they show up to the various picket lines, and that's how they will receive their strike pay.
So if I stay at home and just don't work, I don't get strike pay?
You're not on strike as far as we're concerned, if you're not showing up to a picket line, right? You can't say, if you have an accommodation issue that you physically can't get to a picket line, then we can certainly help arrange for that as well. We can provide administrative duties or something like that. But in order to be considered on strike, you have to participate in a physical picket line.
Take one more if you don't mind. I'm curious, have you gotten echoes of a new directive or a new offer from TBS as it comes to wages over the last 2 weeks? Or is it the same old, or have you just not gotten there at the table yet?
No, I mean, they've said that they have a new mandate. And I'm guessing that's because of the PIC report. And that's why we decided to come back to the table this week. And last week. We were at the table last week as well with common issues. And we're still at the table this week with the 4 specific teams.
Any change? I'm getting it that you haven't gotten to the wage part of negotiations yet.
That's right.
Okay, fair.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, again, thank you everyone for being here. Much appreciated. Stay tuned. Thanks a lot. Take care.